The clerk will now proceed to read the orders of the day.
Data Use and Access Bill Lords, consideration of Lords' message.
I must draw the House's attention to the fact that the Lords' Amendment 49D engages Commons financial privilege. If Lords' Amendment 49D is agreed to, I will cause the customary entry waiving Commons financial privilege to be entered in the Journal. We will now consider the Government motion to disagree with Lords' Amendment 49D. I call the Minister to move the motion to disagree with Lords' Amendment 49D. Secretary of State.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I want to start by putting on record something that I should perhaps have said about in this place a bit more. I cherish the UK creative industries, their immense contribution to our national and personal lives, their embodiment of the best of human creativity, and the sincerity of their concerns about the future. I want to express my genuine gratitude to the whole of the creative sector. From national treasures like Sir Ian McKellen, Kate Bush, and yes, Sir Elton John, for whom all of their performances enrich our lives. And for me, having seen all of them perform live, I can say how much it has personally enriched mine too. And right through to local artists like Paulie the Painter, whose paintings of Hove enrich my ministerial office in Whitehall. But this isn't a competition about who loves the sector most. It is an argument about how best to champion the interests of creatives, large and small, and to protect and promote them into the future. The Data Use and Access Bill's purpose is to better harness data for economic growth, to improve public services and support modern digital government. I want to acknowledge that the agreements reached in the other place on scientific research and sex data to that end. The bill before us today is one step closer to completion, and I am grateful to Minister Jones for her work on these important issues, and I'm sure the House will unite in wishing her a happy birthday today. Yeah. It's a significant birthday, but I'm not going to do her the discourtesy of mentioning which one. Madam Deputy Speaker, this bill was never intended to be about artificial intelligence, intellectual property and copyright. However, the other place has yet again suggested that there be an amendment on this, despite honourable members of this elected House having already removed a similar amendment twice before. Madam Deputy Speaker, I also note your decision that the amendment from the other place still conflicts with the financial privileges of this place. As my right honourable friend, the Minister for Data Protection and Telecoms, has stated repeatedly, we absolutely recognise that a workable solution on transparency is a key part of tackling this issue. But we absolutely disagree that this bill or this amendment is the right way to address it. Of course, I give way.
I thank the Secretary. I thank the Secretary of State for giving way, and I thank him for mentioning Kate Bush. She's the love of my life and has been since I was 9. I just wonder that we have repeatedly spoken about the need for a tech solution to address this issue. I have a background in data and technology and have been meeting with several companies who seem to, between them, possibly have a tech solution. So I wonder if he might meet with me and them to discuss this.
Secretary of State.
I'm extremely grateful for her intervention, but also her love of Kate Bush, for which I share, but also her passion for finding a workable solution as a way forward on this. And as I go through my remarks, I hope she notices and will see that I propose and will propose a way forward that we can do to formalise the insight, wisdom and experience that the companies that she references can move forward with. Because the complexities around AI copyright law and understandable sensitivities of content creators, it needs to be done properly and carefully in a considered, measured and a reasoned way. That is what this government intends to do. In order to make progress, all of us need to work to find some common ground and reflect on things that we could have done better. In that spirit, let me say to this House and also to the other place that I regret the timing of the consultation about copyright and AI and the consideration of this bill and the way that the two collided. And that by indicating a preferred option, it appeared to some that I had taken a side in the debate before everyone had felt that they had been listened to. Of course I'll give way.
I thank the Secretary of State for giving way, and I welcome his words, and I like to hear the words of cherish and champion, and it's great to hear that in this House. And whilst acknowledging that there's no opt-out in the data bill, the Secretary of State mentions the consultation which was launched alongside this bill and does adjoin the very issues. Would my right honourable friend confirm once and for all that the government's preferred opt-out option for copyright reservations is now abandoned?
Secretary of State.
I'm very grateful for her comment. Just to clarify, this bill is a legacy bill that's been in Parliament several times before, including under the previous government. So it was always inevitable that at whatever time the consultation was launched, it would have coincided with the bill that was going through Parliament, and it was never my intention to do so. But as I've just said, I accept that the impression, has indeed been given. But I believe at the time, going into the consultation, that opt-out could have offered an opportunity to bring both sides together. I now accept that that is not the case. Of course I'll give way.
Pleased that he has accepted that. This afternoon, we will go to the Ivor Novello Awards to celebrate the best of our songwriting ability and talent across this country. A magnificent and wonderful display. These writers are seriously concerned that their works are going to be ingested and churned out in an inferior way. And there's nothing that the government are offering our creators. I've looked at this amendment the Lord's presented. It seems a reasonable amendment. What is wrong with it as a way forward?
Secretary of State.
As I've said, and as I will elaborate on, it is my belief, and it is this government's belief, that there is a better way forward to give the protections that creative sectors and creators need, and that will deliver them the certainties, protections, and the ability to see transparency, be remunerated, and for those large creators or those who represent them, more possibilities to deliver the licenses into the future and a raft more. We need to take these issues in the round, not one part of it. And I hope he has a great time at the Ivor Novellos, and I congratulate all of those who win today or have been nominated today and participating today, especially you two, who I think are going to receive an award, another creator that I've seen many times live. And I believe somebody was on their feet.
James Naish.
I thank the Secretary of State for giving way. Many of my constituents have told me that they feel that their works have already been scraped, and they feel that AI development has already trampled over their rights. So what reassurances can he give me and continue to give me through his statement that we already recognise that this is a time-limited issue and action is required?
Secretary of State.
He makes a very pertinent point. And it is also the truth that so much content has already been used and subsumed by AI models, usually from other territories, and also under the current law. There is nothing that illustrates the need to have a comprehensive think about the way forward than the example to which he's just given. And I see the Right Honourable Lady, the Chair of the Select Committee, on her feet, and of course I give way.
To the Secretary of State for giving way, and I really appreciate the tone with which he's started his words. Ministers do keep repeating this mantra about the uncertainty of what our copyright law says about AI training, and there isn't any uncertainty. Commercial generative AI training on UK copyright work is illegal. in the UK. But what rights holders need is what this amendment says: clear, relevant, accurate and accessible information about the use of their copyright works and the means by which they're accessed. That's exactly what it says here. A legislative vehicle in the future, however welcome, is going to be simply too late to protect the livelihoods of so many of the UK's 2.5 million creative workers who fear that this uncertainty line is just an excuse to undermine copyright law. Is the government really committed to proactively enforcing our copyright? And if not through this bill, and now, how and when?
Secretary of State.
I'm very grateful for her intervention, thoughtful as always. I will just pick her up on one substantial point. I've not used the word uncertainty. I have not given the implication that the challenge we have is uncertainty. I think existing copyright law is very certain. It's just not fit for purpose. All of the dangers, all of the existing loss into AI models have happened with existing law. The challenges that we have, for which I will go into further, are happening currently. And we need to make sure that we can have a domestic legal system that is fit for the digital age, and we cannot rely on legislation that was created for and still only is effective in the analogue age. So I want to give certainty. What I'm doing on my feet, and the reason for this statement at this moment of time, is to give the certainty in words, but also, most importantly, to give the certainty in legislation in the most rapid fashion possible, so that creatives and the AI sector can move forward together. Because unfortunately, this bill has at times been presented as a battle between creative industries and new technology companies. Nothing could be further from the truth, and I give way.
Holly Billington.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way, and I really appreciate both the tone and indeed the direction of travel in his words. But I would ask, bearing in mind he is talking about in the most rapid fashion possible, why is it that the government is refusing to put notice of backstop powers for transparency on the face of the bill? That is what the creative industries would like, to give reassurance that in the anticipation that there may be further legislation along the lines, you give the Secretary of State and the government gives themselves the powers to act when and if they see that, the current rules are being broken systematically by AI and tech companies.
Secretary of State.
I'm very grateful, because nobody speaks with more passion about this subject and insight than the Honourable Lady does. I simply say that the amendment that is available is not comprehensive enough, and it does not tackle the needs and the opportunities of both sectors going forward. And the only way that our country will benefit to the maximum potential that both of these sectors present our country is if we can bring them together and find a way forward, and to do so in tandem. Pitting one against the other is unnecessarily divisive and damages both, and I'll give way in a moment. The truth is that growing Britain's economy needs both sectors to succeed and to prosper. Britain has to be the place where the creative industries, and every bit as much as AI companies, can invest, grow, are confident in their future prosperity that is assured. We have to become a country where our people can enjoy the benefits and the opportunities of both. There is an investment battle for Britain happening, and we must win it. I'll give way to whoever was on the...
James Frith.
Thank you. My right honourable friend's tone is most welcome, but it is also consistent with how he has been both in private and public on this matter, and I thank him for that, whilst sharing much of his taste in music also. Would the right honourable friend agree, shouldn't transparency be a prerequisite for all AI development, not a matter for copyright to handle? And if not now, will he commit to including these powers in secondary legislation should the voluntary approach fail?
Secretary of State.
I'm grateful for his tone and also the way he is engaged so fruitfully and passionately and effectively, both on the record and, of course, in the conversations that we have had together. Transparency is the foundation upon which we will build the future solutions to this. I will go on in a moment to talk a bit more about how I intend to deliver that progress. But in order to have remuneration, in order to have the solutions and the empowerment that creatives need in the digital age, of course you need transparency. That is essential and it is immutable. And these are the things that I will strive to deliver on behalf of creatives in a way that is also enforceable and will make the tangible difference to give them the grip that they need in the digital age that they are currently lacking in the age that we live in now. I will give way, and then I'll give way here.
I thank the right honourable gentleman for giving way. Now, he talks about delivering certainty, but does he not see that the certainty he is giving is to large multinational tech companies to get away with scraping original content that is copyrighted, but he is going to give them the certainty through this bill to abuse the rights of creatives?
Secretary of State.
In all sincerity, I'm confused by his intervention. The bill before us does not mention AI, it does not mention copyright. It has nothing to do with any of those items. The data bill is as I described at the beginning. Now, if there is a clause, a sentence, a paragraph of the legislation that is before us and for consideration that damages either the AI sectors or the creative industries, then I would like him to stand up and read that out. What I am proposing is a comprehensive solution in legislation for both of the opportunities and the challenges presented to the AI sector, which is a barrier for them investing here, and perhaps what is currently happening, which is a direction of travel that is posing an existential threat to the nature of the creative sector as we know it today. That is what I'm proposing, and I can assure the honourable gentleman that the data bill before us does not damage any of those interests in the way that he suggests.
Emily Darlington.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and thank you hugely to my honourable friend for the way he is absolutely comprehensively showing our commitment to creative industries. Like him, I am a huge nerd when it comes to amazing new innovations in data and in AI. Hugely enthusiastic about that, but I'm also share his equally huge enthusiasm for the creative industries. And I appreciate what he's saying about transparency. And for me, this is the absolute key point. But what happens and what is the backstop if voluntary does not create the transparency that creators need in order to understand how their creations are being used and if they're being remunerated properly or not for that?
State.
I'm grateful for her intervention. This is the reason why I opened the consultation in the first place, to try and understand where the concerns are, where the tech companies can provide their suggested solutions, and then on the back of which we can come together as two houses of Parliament and two separate sectors to find the way forward. I accept that what I have on the table, and I hope that honourable members across the House and, of course, in the other place, if we can't answer the question that she is posing here today, how will the legislation that I'm proposing as soon as I can get through either House? We need to bring both sectors together. We need to have workable, implementable solutions that have grip in the digital age, and then have the confidence of both houses to get it forward. And it is the process for which we will deliver it that I am asking members across this House and in the other place to offer me a degree of trust that I will lead through that difficult, challenging process, which has bedeviled not just the current situation, but the government before, to deliver for those who need it the most. And of course, I give way to my honourable friend who's first on his feet, and then I'll come over here.
I thank the Minister for giving way. I also appreciate and thank him for the tone in which he's conducting this discussion. Having spent 2 decades running businesses and projects in the creative sector, before entering this House, may I ask the Minister to confirm when the government intends to bring forward the promised AI and IP bill? And will he commit to prioritising transparency obligations in the next Parliament, or even find a suitable vehicle? And finally, will stakeholders be formally consulted before its introduction? Thank you.
Secretary of State.
You can see what a fast learner the honourable gentleman has been since he's been in his place. He got 3 questions into a 30-second intervention. If I take them in reverse order, yes, I assure him that I will engage with both sectors and give a meaningful voice, including to find ways of engaging views across the House in that process. On his first 2 questions, I just have to say that I have striven, perhaps even stretched the boundaries of the clarity in which I'm allowed to speak about the future when it comes to legislation and the processes and formalities of the House in which we are governed by traditions, conventions, and the wrath of the Leader of the House. So I know and I hope that those members with varying degrees of experience will understand when I offer my words that there are meanings behind them about the speed and the enthusiasm and my determination to get this resolved swiftly. But when it comes to the legislative programme of the House, that is in the hands of His Majesty the King and the Leader of the House, for which we have high regard, because I know she'll be watching somewhere in this building, ready to pounce should I step 1 millimetre out of line. But I hope that my honourable friend will understand as I go through my remarks and speak a bit more detail about my intentions, that the necessity for speed and alacrity underpins every single one of my words. And I give way once more before I make more progress.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way. On this point about the speed and determination on the conventions of this House and with regard to the legislative programme, that in some ways gives him a case for putting backstop powers on the face of this bill in order to create the confidence that the creative industries require, so that we do not have to wait for full legislation, that they will have some confidence now, would give the government the power to enforce that if there was seen by the government to pass the test that there was some transgressions. There is a case for what we are asking for because of those constraints. State.
I'm grateful again for her intervention. So let me be as direct as I possibly can. The amendment before us does not have powers enforcement included in it. The amendment before us gives powers to the Secretary of State, but no indication of how those powers should be used. So in that ambiguity, it would be incumbent on me to use the powers in a way I see fit, and I would see fit to do a thorough engagement on the back of such powers before using it, if I decide to use it at all. And then, of course, any of my successors in the post could well use those powers in vastly different ways, which would lead to great instability while in an area that I am determined to create stability. And finally, it would be disempowering for this place to have all of those powers within the hands of the Secretary of State and future Secretaries of State, when what we really need is a comprehensive set of legislative measures that this place and the other place have fully endorsed, is on statute, and can give the security that both sectors need into the future. And it was remiss of me to take her intervention, even though it was an important one, before my honourable friend, the member for York, for who I turn to now.
I'm really grateful to the Secretary of State, and I do take a word spoken at the dispatch box as a commitment, and therefore really welcome what the Secretary of State is saying today. Will he ensure that beyond transparency there is also going to be accountability in the future? Because I think that is the element which is missing within the Lord's Amendment in particular, and also accountability of those businesses and platforms which then go on to make profit out of our creatives' work, and that they should be held to book as well as he approaches this in a more comprehensive way, working with the Secretary of State at the Department of Business and Trade as well.
Again, the range of interventions shows several things, including the breadth of wisdom and experience within this House, but also the complex nature of the issue at hand, which is all being dealt with by one measure, one amendment, which doesn't actually touch on many of the issues which I am being questioned about. Again, reinforces the need to deal with this issue in its entirety, with all of its complexities. So the point that she raises is a point that I will turn to shortly, but the extraterritorial nature of the way that AI is being consumed, scraped, brought into the models, does add challenges to have the grip. That is why having a bill which incentivises investment in this country, alongside giving modern digital rights and obligations in the digital age to creatives, is a way for which we can incentivise companies to come and obey the law of this land as we move forward into the digital age. I believe there was one more person on their feet for whom I haven't yet to get to.
And thank the Secretary of State for giving way. And whilst I agree with most of his music recommendations, I would like to also pay tribute to Girls Aloud, who are the ultimate pop icons in the British music industry. But can a close second. Can I ask the Secretary of State if he will commit to chairing a cross-sector working group with both the AI industries but also the creative sector in the room to help inform any future legislation?
Secretary of State.
I kind of regret taking that intervention because the first band has been raised that I haven't seen live, but I do have some life goals yet. I'll add it to my bucket list. I'm going to turn to the point that she raised, and I'm going to make progress because we have a limited time here, and I want to make sure that opposition figures have all the time that they need to make their points. But it is why the issues, that these issues need serious and dedicated consideration. They have never needed. We have never needed the language of conflict, betrayal, or slavery in this debate. It is time now to tone down the unnecessary rhetoric, and instead, I'm going to make some progress, and I'll try and give way a bit later. It is time to tone down the unnecessary rhetoric and instead recognise that the country needs to strike a balance between content and creativity, transparency and training, and recognition and reward. That can't be done by well-meaning but ultimately imperfect amendments to a bill that was never intended to do such a thing. The issue of AI copyright needs properly considered and enforceable legislation, drafted with the inclusion, the involvement, and the experience of both creatives and technologists. To that end, I can tell the House that I am now setting up a series of expert working groups to bring together people from both sectors on transparency, on licensing, and other technical standards to chart a workable way forward. I will ensure that the outcome of these endeavours are made available to members of both houses. I know that people want this issue resolved speedily. I understand that. Just as I understand the anger and the frustration of creatives who feel their contribution is being taken without proper recognition or reward. The copyright system must be designed so that it works for both creatives and AI companies alike. I'm going to make some progress, but other voices will be heard. Much of the creative content on the internet has already been scraped elsewhere in the world. We cannot turn back time, nor should we kid ourselves that we can exercise extraterritorial reach that we simply do not have. My determination is to get this absolutely right. Not just rush it, right now, to make ourselves feel better, but make no real improvements to the status quo. So, let me be absolutely clear to the House. I get it, and I will get it right. Yeah. Finally, Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, Just as I regret that this has been portrayed as a choice between creatives and artificial intelligence, it is regrettable to me that this has become an issue of contention between this House and the other place. This House is not putting the interests of one sector above another. That would be the wrong approach. The right approach is recognising that this is too important, too complex issue to be rushed. It deserves proper consideration. It requires us to accept our responsibility to do this right in a way that reflects the seriousness of the situation and the sensitivities of both sectors. For now, let's just put this data bill behind us. I give way.
Julian Lewis.
Grateful to the Minister for giving way, and given the constructive tone that he's taking today, would he like to say a word of praise for the upper house, without whose determination to keep revisiting this matter, he might not have felt it quite so necessary to come to the House today and outline in such detail the constructive alternatives that he wishes to put forward?
Secretary of State.
I of course, acknowledge the point he makes, and already in my speech have a couple of times acknowledged the work of the upper house, several members within it, and the constructive way that we have resolved other ways, other parts of the bill, in a very functional way for which both houses were designed to work in cooperation, sometimes with tension, but ultimately to deliver the legislation that government intends to introduce using the primacy of this place. I hope that he will recognise that this is not the first time I've engaged privately and publicly. Many of the statements that I've made today have been done so, but not in the kind of pointed way that I'm doing here now. That, I hope, rises to the moment for which we are in, and I've already acknowledged how I'd, looking back, would have taken other actions to have brought this to a conclusion much sooner. And I hope that other members around this House and in the other place will similarly act in a way that can put this moment behind us so we can focus on a way that uses the power of government and, of course, the power of both houses to get this right for those sectors who are counting on us to do just that. So, from this moment, I give this House, at the dispatch box, my personal commitment to unstinting work alongside both sectors together to resolve the contentious issue of AI and copyright quickly, effectively, and I will report back to this House regularly on progress being made. My responsibility as Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology is to bring forward proposals on copyright that can deliver the balance we seek between the interests of the creative and the AI industries. We will do that, and we will get it right. I beg to move.
The question is that this House disagrees with the Lords in their Amendment 49D. Shadow Minister, point of order, Sir John Whittingdale.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Secretary of State has spoken for 33 minutes in a debate that lasts for an hour. We have yet to hear from the opposition front bench. There will not be time to have a proper debate on this, which is a matter of great importance to a number. Can the government please make available more time than just a 60-minute time limit?
Can I thank the Right Honourable Gentleman for his point of order? It was, in fact, not a point of order, and he would be aware that the programme motion has already been agreed to by the House. Dr Ben Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As honourable members know, the substance of this bill began with the previous government in recognition of the need to streamline and harness the use of data to grow the economy and drive improvement in the delivery of public services. As I've said before, when this bill started its life, most of us had no idea it would become the vehicle for addressing some of the most important social and technological issues of our time. While I welcome the huge benefits the data bill will bring to the economy and public services when it comes into force, I fear this bill will go down in the government's record as the bill of missed opportunities. A missed opportunity to fix our flawed public data sets, which present a barrier to tracking and tackling inequalities in areas such as women's health. A missed opportunity to commit to a review of protections for children and their use of social media platforms, and to commit to taking action to increase those protections where the evidence shows there is good reason. And a missed opportunity to provide much needed certainty to two of our key growth industries, the creative and AI sectors, over how they can interact to promote their mutual growth and flourishing. It could be seen somewhat dispiriting to be back at the dispatch box yet again, having the debate on copyright and AI with the ministerial team, but I see there's been an upgrade since our last outing at the dispatch box. I would like to say, though, that I do pay tribute to the Secretary of State for the tone and approach in terms of how he has taken this debate, particularly in recognition of previous mistakes made. I think as politicians we don't say sorry or recognise mistakes or where we want things to have gone better enough, and I appreciate him making these statements at the dispatch box. But the fact is, the fact that we're here is a testament to the determination and sincere concern among members of both houses and across both benches, the deep concern that we simply must not miss this opportunity to find a solution to such a significant challenge. Our colleagues in the other place have spoken about their commitment to the primacy of this House and their reticence to delay the passage of this bill any further than is absolutely necessary. Their resolve demonstrates the importance of this issue to members of both houses and the stakeholders they represent. The government has spoken repeatedly of its commitment to protecting the creative industries, but their action is still yet to match their rhetoric. It would appear that today reviews have now been upgraded to working groups. Many excuses have been made for why the government feels unable to act now. Baroness Kidron and the noble lords have acted in good faith on the government's stated concerns and sought to address them in the latest iteration of Transparency Amendment on Copyright and AI. Lord's Amendment 49D provides flexibility for the government to put in place proportionate regulations on the transparency of AI enterprises by reference to their size. Importantly, it allows reasonable timeframe for the government to complete its review of responses in its consultation, which concludes in February, before the Secretary of State is compelled to lay draft transparency regulations before Parliament. For the third time, an amendment on this topic received the overwhelming support of honourable members in the other place, and the debate at the last round showed the strength of feeling is mirrored in this House. Amendment 49D is a balanced clause which puts in place a much-needed long stop date to provide the certainty that creatives and technology industries alike have been calling for, as the honourable member opposite suggested, a backstop, so to speak. The government has run out of excuses for failing to act. Today we have an opportunity to achieve something which is relatively rare in our political climate, to create effective, balanced legislation based on cross-party compromise. It's important to public confidence in government to show we are able to put sound principles above politics when the overwhelming need arises. The government has another opportunity today. Let's make sure it's not another missed one.
Yeah. In which case, Lib Dem spokesman Victoria Collins.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak on Lord's Amendment 49D. As the bill returns indeed to this House from the House of Lords, I'm grateful the other place continues to fight for creatives, and this amendment focuses on the fundamental principle of transparency while securing the principle of proportionality. I'm also very grateful for the cross-party work and support in this House, and indeed the movements from the Secretary of State today. And I know many of you have signed various amendments standing up for creatives, and I call on colleagues across the House to consider how they vote today on this amendment before us. At its very core, the amendment would require AI companies to provide copyright owners with clear, relevant information about how their works are being used by AI development and training. The amendment is clear that this is between the trader and data holder and copyright owner to ensure that it is accessible to copyright owners upon request. And really behind this are real people, real communities and the rich tapestry of a 126 billion creative industry. Yes, I'll give way.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. My constituency of Stratford-on-Avon has always been a place where arts and creativity flourish. Does my honourable friend agree that government action is needed now to ensure that our British artists, musicians, writers and the William Shakespeares of the future are fully protected and compensated by the big tech companies?
Victoria Collins.
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention, and indeed I was going to say I'm sure that every MP here will have local creatives, from artists like the Secretary of State talked about the artist in his office. Mine is Tabitha Mary, who has pictures from around towns in Harpenden and Berkhamsted. We have musicians such as Rock Chorus, and indeed in Hertfordshire we have film studios such as Elstree, Warner Brothers, Leavesden and Bovingdon, and I'm sure many of these will be following this debate. Their life's work, their paintings, performances, films could be feeding, and indeed are feeding, into AI systems right now, and they have no way of knowing. They want to work hand in hand with technology and AI, but our creatives are calling for a fair playing field. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I was recently approached by the British Deaf Association with concerns about AI companies requiring vast volumes of video footage of British Sign Language without proper consent or awareness from the original signers. And I was curious about what AI itself would say about the issue. So I asked it to write in the style of the member for Rhondda and Ogmore. I didn't ask it for the Secretary of State, but as the member for Rhondda and Ogmore is a member for State for DCIT and DCMS, I thought it would be quite interesting. I would highlight it also said that the Minister was known for his bold, articulate style, often weaving sharp analysis with a touch of wit, but I'll let others be the judge of whether AI has encapsulated that. So this is what it had to say. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand at a crossroads, one where technology and creativity are colliding, not in conflict, but in collaboration. For centuries, imagination has driven progress, shaping our world through art, literature, design and innovation. And now AI is in the mix, not to replace human ingenuity, but to challenge it, expand it, and sometimes even surprise us. The question isn't whether AI is coming, it is here. The real question is how do we harness it to elevate human creativity rather than diminish it? I'd like to think it asked a very good question. And to harness that and elevate that human creativity, creativities are calling for transparency. So today we're at that crossroads with an opportunity to vote for that transparency. So Madam Deputy Speaker, as the bill nears completion, I urge the government to accept this reasonable compromise, but do accept that the tone and the movement today is very welcome, and that work with creatives and tech, which I think is very much needed, I will give way.
Would the honourable member agree with me that actually what this proves is that AI can't capture the wit and the humour actually that the member for Rhondda and Ogmore actually brings to this chamber, and actually it is a poor copy, and fashion, and in fact it's a poor copy of what he actually represents and brings.
Right, Honourable for her intervention, and I think the House has spoken on that. And so, true leadership in AI means building on respect for creativity, including in the House of Commons, not exploitation. We can build an AI-powered future where technology and human ingenuity flourish together, but only if we start with transparency. We can be a world leader in setting a standard for creativity and technology to work together. So I invite all colleagues from all parties to join us today in supporting Amendment 49D and set that direction and that stability for transparency, and set up transparency for our creators and for the principle in the age of AI that human creativity still matters. Thank you.
Pete Wishart.
As much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Now, this is the second time we've considered this amendment in this House. And it's the second time, I suppose, we've received this "just trust me, I just want to get on with it" homily that all the government front bench now present when you discuss this. And they say they want to set up all sorts of working groups. They say that they want to get to legislation. And none of us have any difficulty or objection to what the government wants to do. But what we want is action now. And we get concerned when the Secretary of State, as he just did in his speech, says there's no certainty in our copyright laws just now. There is absolute certainty. It's exactly what the Secretary, and you could check back in Hansard, that's what he said. And that was where the concern and the anxiety comes into this. Now, they might get a technical victory today because of this invocation of financial issues once again, but it'll come back again from the House of Lords. They're not going to give up. The thing is, everybody is united with the House of Lords when it comes to these issues. Everybody wants a solution now. Nobody agrees with the government's position except the AI firms that seek to benefit from the unauthorised use of our cultural work, and the anger is growing. The more the public see of this, our constituents get increasingly concerned about how our artists are being treated. And you just need to look at Sir Elton John's reaction on Sunday, not just the choice of language about the government front bench, but the way he feels so dismissed that it's even threatening legal action. Surely the way forward is compromise, and just surely go some way towards the creative sector and give them something that what they want. This Lord's Amendment presents that approach. It respects the financial prerogatives of this government, and it's taken on board all of what the front bench have said. I would urge the government, please reconsider its position and engage seriously on the substance of the amendment. The amendment addresses copyright holders' calls for transparency without imposing immediate enforcement costs. What it does do is require AI developers to provide copyright owners with clear, relevant, accurate and accessible information on how their works have been used and how they were accessed. Nothing could be fairer than that. And what it allows us as government to actually decide and introduces words like may rather than must, thereby avoiding direct spending obligation. We must surely start to work together on the basis of what has been agreed between both houses and try to ensure that we get something that meets everybody's concerns. And that has to start with this Lord's Amendment. And I urge at this really late stage for this government to accept it, and I encourage the backbench who have made fantastic contributions today, who have stood up to this government, vote against them. That will show exactly how strong you feel about this issue. So I encourage Labour colleagues to actually back us today in this amendment.
Sir John Whittingdale.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I have to say I'm slightly surprised that the lack of any government backbencher willing to speak in support of the government's position means that I have more time available now to speak than I had initially thought would be the case. I'm not going to repeat a lot of the arguments that we've had in the lengthy debates that have already taken place around these measures, but I did want to make one or two points. The Secretary of State, in his contribution, said that he'd never mentioned the word uncertainty and implied that he thought that copyright law is clear. I have to say that does contrast with an awful lot of the debates we've had previously, where his colleague, the Minister for Creative Industries, has talked about there being uncertainty. And does the Minister wish to give way?
You must have missed several of the debates where I expressly said that I didn't think there was any uncertainty about the law as it presently stands.
Sir John Whittingdale.
I think the ministerial forward to the consultation paper actually suggests there was uncertainty, and that has been consistently one of the reasons why the government has said they need to carry out all these consultations. But even if the law is clear, as the Secretary of State suggests, and I personally believe it is clear, the important thing is it can only be enforced if those who have their copyright breached are aware that it has taken place. And that is why transparency is of critical importance, something that I know the government have acknowledged. Now, the Secretary of State this afternoon has said that he's going to set up more working parties. The concern we have is, as the Secretary of State has just said, large amounts of copyright material are already being scraped by generative AI. And his working parties and further consultation, and we wait to hear when legislation might actually arrive, means that it is going to be another few years before we actually have this on the statute book. There is an opportunity to have something on the statute book now. And he will be aware that the existing provisions, the robots.txt provisions, are simply being ignored. They are not working. And it is important that we act immediately to send a very clear signal that we expect transparency to be in place and for AI generative companies to properly remunerate license holders. Now, the other provisions I'd just like to mention. The government in the order paper have said that the amendment from the House of Lords engages financial privilege. Well, the clerks may have advised. Well, I merely suggest that actually it is very unclear, as many in the House of Lords have suggested, it is very unclear how it can engage financial privilege when where it says that the provision of the House of Lords says may. It does not contain any requirement on the government to indulge in financial expenditure. And I do just say that I think it is a worrying precedent if the government is going to avoid debate on policy by suggesting that it may invoke financial.
Order. I do think it would be helpful if I clarified that that is a matter for the chair and not for the government. Sir John Whittingdale.
I of course accept the ruling, Madam Deputy Speaker. I just say that it looks very strange that when there is no financial requirement. I will just finish on one further point. I understand the Secretary of State's keenness to attract investment from the tech companies. I would just say to him that previously, when we have debated legislation affecting tech companies, on each occasion we have heard that it may result in them being unwilling to come and invest in this country. That has never been the case. And I hope that the Secretary of State will not listen to those who say that if we proceed to enforce copyright law, it may somehow result in tech companies finding this country unattractive. I don't believe it is the case. I don't believe that it will jeopardise the jobs which I know the government is keen to create. But unless we proceed down this route with the amendment in the House of Lords, it will jeopardise the jobs of the 2.4 million people in this country who are employed in the creative industries.
The question is that this House disagrees with the Lords in their Amendment 49D. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. No. Division, clear the lobby. Okay. The question is that this House disagrees with the Lords in their Amendment 49D. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. No. The tellers for the ayes are Keir Mather and Christian Wakeford. The tellers for the noes, Charlie Maynard and Will Forster. Order.
The ayes to the right, 195. The noes to the left, 124.
The ayes to the right were 195, the noes to the left 124, so the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Unlock.
The Lords will know what to do though. Yeah.
Minister to move that a committee be appointed to draw up reasons.
I beg to move that a committee be appointed to draw up a reason to be assigned to the Lords for disagreeing to their Amendment 49D, that Peter Kyle, Anna Turley, Matthew Patrick, Steve Yem, Katrina Murray, Ben Spencer and Victoria Collins be members of the committee, that Peter Kyle be the chair of the committee, that there be the quorum of the committee, 3 be the quorum of the committee, that the committee do withdraw immediately.
The question is that a committee be appointed to draw up reasons to be assigned to the Lords for disagreeing to their Amendment 49D, that Peter Kyle, Anna Turley, Matthew Patrick, Steve Yem, Katrina Murray, Dr Ben Spencer and Victoria Collins be members of the committee, that Peter Kyle be the chair of the committee, that 3 be the quorum of the committee, that the committee do withdraw immediately. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. That concludes consideration of the Lord's message relating to the Data Use and Access Bill, Lords. We now come to motion number 2, relating to a business of the House today. Minister to move.
I beg to move.
The question is as on the order paper. The question is as on the order paper. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes